Among the trove of ancient texts discovered in the Egyptian desert at Hammadi, one stands apart as arguably the most important: the Gospel of Thomas. A tantalizing debate places its creation around 120 CE, yet some experts argue it could be even older than the canonical Gospels, pointing to its unique structure as evidence that it wasn't copied from Matthew, Mark, or Luke. If you open its pages expecting the familiar stories of Jesus' life, you'll find none. There's no narrative here, no miracles, no journey to Jerusalem, and most strikingly, not a single word about his crucifixion or resurrection. Instead, the Gospel of Thomas presents a collection of 114 secret sayings, allegedly penned by Didymus Judas Thomas, the well-known apostle of Jesus, whose name Didymus seems to identify him as Jesus' own twin brother, though that is debated. This gospel presents a radically different version of Jesus and his message. He is not a Messiah who dies for the sins of the world, but an eternal teacher who reveals a profound, Gnostic-like truth that within each of us is a divine light, a spark from a heavenly realm that has fallen and become trapped in the material world, which the text dismisses as a corpse. Our souls are drunk, forgetful of their divine origin. According to Thomas, salvation comes not from faith in an event, but from the liberating knowledge or Gnosis found in Jesus' sayings. By understanding them, one can strip off the prison of the physical body and return to the divine, not just to be saved, but to rule over the all. Before we delve into every saying in this remarkable text, if you like this type of content, please remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next video. And also, remember to check out Folks of Yore, a history channel I narrate for. We make videos about what life was actually like for people in history. Now let's begin exploring these sayings from the Gospel of Thomas, all in an effort to understand this powerful and alternative version of early Christianity. The Gospel of Thomas begins by inviting the reader to begin a profound spiritual journey. These are the secret sayings that the living Jesus spoke and Didymus Judas Thomas recorded, it says. And saying 1 states, "And he said, whoever discovers the interpretation of these sayings will not taste death." Jesus states that anyone who grasps the true meaning of his words in this gospel will attain a state of being where death holds no fear, or they may even achieve immortality itself. An alternative view is that death refers to a spiritual death, meaning that understanding these teachings will prevent a person from ever losing their faith. Saying 2 states, Jesus said, "Those who seek should not stop seeking until they find. When they find, they will be disturbed. When they are disturbed, they will marvel and will reign over all, and after they have reigned, they will rest." Jesus explains that individuals searching for answers must be persistent. He warns that when they do find the truth, it will likely disturb them at first, a particular caution for those who are skeptical. However, once they manage to accept this newfound truth, their initial shock will give way to profound amazement. Saying 3 states, Jesus said, "If your leaders say to you, 'Look, the Father's kingdom is in the sky,' then the birds of the sky will precede you. If they say to you, 'It is in the sea,' then the fish will precede you. Rather, the Father's kingdom is within you, and it is outside you. When you know yourselves, then you will be known, and you will understand that you are children of the living Father. But if you do not know yourselves, then you live in poverty, and you are the poverty." Jesus suggests that if you're told heaven is in the sky or the sea, then the birds and fish would get there before you. The real kingdom, he implies, is found within yourself. Discovering this internal peace reveals that you are a child of God and need little else. This promotes a form of self-reliance, urging followers to trust their inner selves over the words of leaders. It also subtly mocks religious figures who claim special knowledge of God, as Jesus teaches that God already resides within us. He adds that knowing yourself is essential to knowing God. To lack this self-knowledge is to experience the deepest spiritual poverty, to be poverty itself. Saying 4. Jesus said, "The person old in days won't hesitate to ask a little child 7 days old about the place of life, and that person will live. For many of the first will be last, and will become a single one." It seems odd for an old man to ask an infant about his place in life, yet this act demonstrates the old man's profound respect and humility. He doesn't assume superiority based on age and sees the infant as an equal. This reflects the idea that in God's eyes, everyone is a child. The Gospel of Thomas later reinforces this by portraying children as the purest and wisest beings because they haven't been corrupted by life. Saying 5. Jesus said, "Know what is in front of your face, and what is hidden from you will be disclosed to you. For there is nothing hidden that will not be revealed, and there is nothing buried that will not be raised." In this saying, Jesus advises against obsessing over life's hidden mysteries. He reassures Thomas that every question will eventually be answered, either through prayer or upon death when the soul reaches heaven. Instead, one's focus should be on the present moment, which is what truly matters, rather than on hypotheticals or the unknowable. Saying 6. His disciples asked him and said to him, "Do you want us to fast? How should we pray? Should we give to charity? What diet should we observe?" Jesus said, "Don't lie and don't do what you hate, because all things are disclosed before heaven." After all, there is nothing hidden that will not be revealed, and there is nothing covered up that will remain undisclosed. Jesus criticizes his disciples for their hypocrisy, telling them not to lie or do things they despise. He explains that God sees the intention behind their actions. If they perform religious duties like praying, donating, or fasting with a resentful attitude, God will know their actions lack integrity. In short, Jesus insists that these acts of faith should be performed willingly and joyfully as a true expression of humility and charity. Saying 7. Jesus said, "Lucky is the lion that the human will eat, so that the lion becomes human, and foul is the human that the lion will eat, and the lion will still become human." This saying presents a paradox to illustrate a spiritual concept. The lion symbolizes the wild, bestial nature or the passions, while the human represents the higher, rational, and spiritual self. When the human eats the lion, the lower nature is consumed and transformed into the higher, a fortunate spiritual victory. Conversely, if the lion eats the human, the higher self is overcome and absorbed by the passions. This is a foul or wretched outcome, yet the text adds a twist. The lion will still become human, suggesting that even in this degradation, the divine spark within the human ultimately elevates the lower nature, though through a tragic process. The saying champions the deliberate spiritual effort to conquer and sublimate one's lower instincts. Saying 8. And he said, "The person is like a wise fisherman who cast his net into the sea and drew it up from the sea full of little fish. Among them the wise fisherman discovered a fine large fish. He threw all the little fish back into the sea and easily chose the large fish. Anyone here with 2 good ears has better listen." Here the wise fisher serves as a metaphor for God. Just as the fisherman keeps the large valuable fish and throws the smaller ones back, some view this to mean that God will choose to keep the virtuous humans who have led good lives and will cast back those who have not. The Gnostic view of this saying is that those who are ready will be illuminated with Gnosis and return to the Pleroma. The rest need more time to grow and expand their consciousness. Saying 9. Jesus said, "Look, the sower went out, took a handful of seeds and scattered them. Some fell on the road, and the birds came and gathered them. Others fell on rock, and they didn't take root in the soil and didn't produce heads of grain. Others fell on thorns, and they choked the seeds, and worms ate them. And others fell on good soil, and it produced a good crop. It yielded 60 per measure, and 120 per measure." This parable presents the sower as a metaphor for God, who scatters human souls across the earth like seeds. Some seeds or souls encounter misfortune or simply fail to thrive. Others, however, flourish and produce fruit, meaning they accomplish great things and draw closer to heaven. Saying 10. Jesus said, "I have cast fire upon the world, and look, I'm guarding it until it blazes." The fire in this saying is open to several interpretations. It could symbolize the final judgment awaiting sinners, the transformative power of the Holy Spirit released after Jesus' mission, or the rapid spread of his message across the world. Another view is that the fire represents the resurrection, with the crucifixion being the spark that ignited the global spread of his teachings. Saying 11. Jesus said, "This heaven will pass away, and the one above it will pass away. The dead are not alive, and the living will not die. During the days when you ate what is dead, you made it come alive. When you are in the light, what will you do? On the day when you were one, you became two. But when you become two, what will you do?" This saying suggests that two planes of existence will vanish, leaving only God's realm. The phrases, "those who are dead aren't alive," and "those who are living will not die" seem obvious, but they carry deeper meaning. The dead are those living unrighteously, while the living who won't die are those whose positive impact on the world grants them a form of immortality, either through their legacy or in God's memory. When you are in the light refers to a state of enlightenment, where one has attained a higher level of consciousness and understanding, often associated with Gnostic and mystical traditions. In this state, one is free from the limitations of the physical world and the illusions of duality. When Jesus talks about becoming divided after being one, he speaks of the experience of duality, the separation of self from the divine or the world, which is often described as the fall from a state of unity. The final question, "When you become two, what will you do?" challenges the individual to consider what choices they will make when they are in a state of duality, separated from the source. Will they continue down the path of material desire, or will they seek to return to unity? Saying 12. The disciples said to Jesus, "We know that you are going to leave us. Who will be our leader?" Jesus said to them, "No matter where you are to go to James the Just, for whose sake heaven and earth came into being." Aware that Jesus would not be with them forever, the disciples asked who would guide them after his departure. Jesus named James the Just, who was known as a brother of Jesus and was a natural choice to lead. As the respected head of the Jerusalem church for over 15 years, James was someone Jesus clearly trusted to continue his work. Saying 13. Jesus said to his disciples, "Compare to me something and tell me what I am like." Simon Peter said to him, "You are like a just messenger." Matthew said to him, "You are like a wise philosopher." Thomas said to him, "Teacher, my mouth is utterly unable to say what you are like." Jesus said, "I am not your teacher. Because you have drunk, you have become intoxicated from the bubbling spring that I have tended." And he took him and withdrew and spoke 3 sayings to him. When Thomas came back to his friends, they asked him, "What did Jesus say to you?" Thomas said to them, "If I tell you one of the sayings he spoke to me, you will pick up rocks and stone me, and fire will come from the rocks and devour you." Jesus pulls Thomas aside, though it's unclear if it's out of approval or displeasure. Thomas had called Jesus his teacher and was described as intoxicated by the bubbling spring, meaning he was completely absorbed in Jesus' teachings. Jesus then shares 3 secret sayings with him. But Thomas tells the other disciples he cannot repeat a single word for fear they would stone him for blasphemy. This suggests the words were highly controversial, with some speculating they were the true names of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. This highlights the Gnostic theme of spiritual truth requiring a kind of secret knowledge, available only to those ready to receive it. Thomas was ready at that moment, but the rest were not. Saying 14, Jesus said to them, "If you fast, you will bring sin upon yourselves, and if you pray, you will be condemned. And if you give to charity, you will harm your spirits. When you go into any region and walk about in the countryside, when people take you in, eat what they serve you and heal the sick among them. After all, what goes into your mouth will not defile you. Rather, it's what comes out of your mouth that will defile you." Echoing saying 6, Jesus repeats that insincere acts of faith are harmful. Fasting with ill intent brings guilt. Praying without belief leads to condemnation. And donating for selfish reasons damages the spirit. He also gives practical advice for ministry. When in poorer regions, they should heal the sick and humbly accept whatever food is offered. As Jesus poetically states, "What defiles you is not the humble food that enters your mouth, but the insulting words that come out of it." Saying 15, Jesus said, "When you see one who was not born of a woman, fall on your faces and worship. That one is your Father." This saying points toward a profound theological concept rooted in Gnostic and early mystical thought. The one who was not born of woman is not a human being but a reference to the divine eternal origin of humanity, the perfect spiritual archetype or the divine spark within. Jesus is directing his disciples to recognize and revere this divine source, which he identifies as the Father. Therefore, the saying is an instruction to turn away from the purely physical world and to recognize and worship the uncreated spiritual reality that is the ultimate source of one's true self. Saying 16, Jesus said, "Perhaps people think that I have come to cast peace upon the world. They do not know that I have come to cast conflicts upon the earth, fire, sword, war. For there will be 5 in a house. There will be 3 against 2, and 2 against 3, father against son, and son against father, and they will stand alone." This saying is surprising as Jesus, often a figure of peace, describes himself as a source of division. However, this reflects the reality that religion often creates conflict. Jesus acknowledges that his teachings will polarize the world, creating factions of those who follow him and those who do not. Saying 17, Jesus said, "I will give you what no eye has seen, what no ear has heard, what no hand has touched, what has not arisen in the human heart." This statement is quite clear. Jesus explains that he can grant a person divine perception, the ability to see, hear, feel, and think on a higher plane. He can share a wisdom and a way of experiencing the world that is otherwise impossible to achieve. Saying 18, the disciples said to Jesus, "Tell us, how will our end come?" Jesus said, "Have you found the beginning then, that you are looking for the end? You see, the end will be where the beginning is. Congratulations to the one who stands at the beginning. That one will know the end and will not taste death." When asked about the end of the world, Jesus dismisses the question as unnecessary. Instead of a direct answer, he states that the end is contained within the beginning, and that one cannot understand the end without first knowing the beginning. This suggests a cyclical or infinite concept of time, mirroring the true nature of God, where beginnings and endings are meaningless. Saying 19, Jesus said, "Congratulations to the one who came into being before coming into being. If you become my disciples and pay attention to my sayings, these stones will serve you. For there are 5 trees in paradise for you. They do not change, summer or winter, and their leaves do not fall. Whoever knows them will not taste death. This concept is specific to Gnostic traditions. It involves the idea that a spirit exists before birth, and also speaks of 5 trees in paradise that are unaffected by seasons. Anyone who comes to know these trees will escape death, implying that such knowledge is only possible for one who is already in paradise, free from death and life's hardships. Saying 20. The disciples said to Jesus, "Tell us what heaven's kingdom is like." He said to them, "It's like a mustard seed, the smallest of all seeds, but when it falls on prepared soil, it produces a large plant and becomes a shelter for the birds of the sky." Jesus compares the kingdom of heaven to a mustard seed. This highlights how something very small like Jesus' message, when planted in fertile ground, a receptive mind, can grow into something vast and powerful, large enough to shelter even the birds high in the sky. Saying 21. Mary said to Jesus, "What are your disciples like?" He said they are like little children living in a field that is not theirs. When the owners of the field come, they will say, "Give us back our field." They take off their clothes in front of them in order to give it back to them, and they return their field to them. For this reason I say, if the owners of a house know that a thief is coming, they will be on guard before the thief arrives, and will not let the thief break into their house and steal their possessions. As for you then, be on guard against the world. Prepare yourselves with great strength so the robbers can't find a way to get to you, for the trouble you expect will come. Let there be among you a person who understands. When the crop ripened, he came quickly carrying a sickle and harvested it. Anyone here with 2 good ears had better listen. Jesus refers to his disciples as innocent children living in a field or the world that isn't theirs. When the owner, God, returns, the disciples obediently strip off their clothes, which can be interpreted in a few ways. It could be a reference to Christian baptism, or it could be a metaphor for the soul shedding the body at death to return to the heavenly realm. Saying 22. Jesus saw some babies nursing. He said to his disciples, "These nursing babies are like those who enter the Father's kingdom." They said to him, "Then shall we enter the Father's kingdom as babies?" Jesus said to them, "When you make the 2 into one, when you make the inner like the outer and the outer like the inner, the upper like the lower, and when you make male and female into a single one, so that the male will not be male nor the female be female, when you make eyes in place of an eye, a hand in place of a hand, a foot in place of a foot, an image in place of an image, then you will enter the kingdom." To enter the kingdom, Jesus says one must first become like a nursing child, showing a pure, dependent love for God, like that between a baby and its mother. One must overcome the distractions of the material world by merging the spiritual and physical into a single reality. A person will only be allowed into the kingdom once they strip themselves of the duality of the material and spiritual world and make them into one, or until a person has merged the soul and the body into one. Jesus speaks of making the male and female a single entity, same as the Hermetic ideals of oneness and unity of opposites. Saying 23. Jesus said, "I shall choose you, 1 from 1,000 and 2 from 10,000, and they will stand as a single one." This saying bluntly states that only a very small number of people will successfully meet the criteria outlined previously to enter heaven. The odds are stark. Just 1 in 1,000 and 2 in 10,000 will be chosen. Saying 24. His disciples said, "Show us the place where you are, for we must seek it." He said to them, "Anyone here with 2 ears had better listen. There is light within a person of light, and it shines on the whole world. If it does not shine, it is dark." Jesus explains that some people have a light within them that illuminates the entire world. This light can be shared with others who are open to receiving it. Conversely, those who do not shine possess an inner darkness, indicating they are not righteous and are unlikely to see the kingdom of heaven. Saying 25. Jesus said, "Love your friends like your own soul. Protect them like the pupil of your eye." Here Jesus gives a simple, profound instruction. Love your brother as you love your own soul. In essence, treat others as you wish to be treated. He adds that you should protect your neighbor as diligently as you would protect the pupil of your own eye, promoting a life of nobility and virtue. Saying 26. Jesus said, "You see the sliver in your friend's eye, but you don't see the timber in your own eye. When you take the timber out of your own eye, then you will see well enough to remove the sliver from your friend's eye." Jesus points out our tendency to notice imperfections in others while ignoring our own much larger flaws. He implies that only when we are free from fault ourselves, a state achieved by becoming one, can we genuinely help others with their smaller imperfections. Saying 27. If you do not fast from the world, you will not find the Father's kingdom. If you do not observe the Sabbath as a Sabbath, you will not see the Father. Jesus advises his followers to fast from the world, meaning that becoming too entangled in worldly affairs will prevent them from finding the heavenly kingdom. Keeping the Sabbath a Sabbath seems to imply that one should rest in a truly significant way and separate oneself from worldly concerns. Saying 28. Jesus said, "I took my stand in the midst of the world, and in flesh I appeared to them. I found them all drunk, and I did not find any of them thirsty. My soul ached for the children of humanity, because they are blind in their hearts and do not see. For they came into the world empty, and they also seek to depart from the world empty. But meanwhile they are drunk. When they shake off their wine, then they will change their ways." Jesus expresses his disappointment with humanity's reaction to his message. He found mankind drunk, caught up in the illusion of the physical world. Despite being intoxicated, they were not thirsty for spiritual truth. This troubled him deeply, as it seemed people were content to live and die in ignorance of their own true nature. Only after they shake off their wine or awaken from this illusion will they begin to seek the true reality of the heavenly kingdom. Saying 29. Jesus said, "If the flesh came into being because of spirit, that is a marvel. But if spirit came into being because of the body, that is a marvel of marvels. Yet I marvel at how this great wealth has come to dwell in this poverty." Jesus marvels at the symbiotic connection between the soul and the physical body, considering it a fantastic wonder. Yet he is also baffled that such a glorious vessel, the combination of spirit and flesh, can exist in a state of profound spiritual poverty. Saying 30. Jesus said, "Where there are 3 deities, they are divine. Where there are 2 or 1, I am with that one." This saying can be interpreted as a reference to the Trinity. Where 2 are present, the Father and the Holy Spirit, Jesus, the Son, is also there. It could also mean that divinity is incomplete without him, and that the presence of the divine is not limited to boundaries like churches and other sacred places, but is everywhere to be experienced. Saying 31. Jesus said no prophet is welcome on his home turf. Doctors don't cure those who know them. Jesus shares a piece of cryptic life wisdom. A prophet is unwelcome in his own village, just as a doctor is not trusted to heal those who know him. People who knew these figures as immature children find it difficult to see them as respected practitioners or a divine messenger, as their past image clouds their present authority. Saying 32. A city built on a high hill and fortified cannot fall, nor can it be hidden. The fortified city in this parable is a metaphor for faith in God. Jesus encourages his disciples by telling them they are citizens of this kingdom, built on a high mountain that cannot be shaken by earthquakes, battered by wind, or stormed by armies. This unwavering belief provides them with all the security they need. Saying 33, Jesus said, "What you will hear in your ear, in the other ear proclaim from your rooftops. After all, no one lights a lamp and puts it under a basket, nor does one put it in a hidden place. Rather, one puts it on a lampstand, so that all who come and go will see its light." Jesus instructs his disciples that when they learn the truth, they must listen carefully to fully understand it. Once they grasp it, they are to proclaim it from the rooftops, sharing their knowledge widely. Like a lamp, the truth should be displayed proudly to guide others, not hidden away. Saying 34. Jesus said, "If a blind person leads a blind person, both of them will fall into a hole." In this straightforward parable, Jesus explains that the blind cannot lead the blind. A person who does not understand God's truth cannot possibly explain it to someone else. Saying 35, Jesus said, "One can't enter a strong person's house and take it by force without tying his hands. Then one can loot his house." Here Jesus teaches that if one's faith is sufficiently strong, it becomes unbreakable. If you believe in God as deeply as you claim, your ideals cannot be shaken or stolen by others unless you first allow doubt to weaken your resolve. Saying 36, Jesus said, "Do not fret from morning to evening and from evening to morning about your food, what you're going to eat, or about your clothing, what you're going to wear. You're much better than the lilies which neither card nor spin. As for you, when you have no garment, what will you put on? Who might add to your stature? That very one will give you your garment." This is a powerful call from Jesus to live without anxiety about material needs. He encourages his followers to release their worries about what they will eat or wear, suggesting that such concerns are a distraction from a more profound spiritual reality. By pointing to the lilies that are beautifully adorned without any effort, Jesus illustrates that a higher power provides for his creation. Saying 37, his disciples said, "When will you appear to us? And when will we see you?" Jesus said, "When you strip without being ashamed, and you take your clothes and put them under your feet like little children and trample them, then you will see the Son of the Living One, and you will not be afraid." The disciples ask when they will see Jesus again. He replies that it will only happen when they can stand naked without shame and stomp on their clothes like little children. Clothes here may symbolize one's preconceived beliefs about God. By shedding these and returning to a state of childlike innocence, free from shame, they will finally see him. Another interpretation is that they will see him after they shed their physical bodies in the afterlife. Saying 38, Jesus said, "Often you have desired to hear these sayings that I am speaking to you, and you have no one else from whom to hear them. There will be days when you will seek me, and you will not find me." This saying serves as a warning that Jesus will not always be physically present with his disciples. While he is with them, finding comfort and belief in his words is easy. However, when he is gone, they will have to work much harder to maintain their faith. Saying 39, Jesus said, "The Pharisees and the scholars have taken the keys of knowledge and have hidden them. They have not entered, nor have they allowed those who want to enter to do so. As for you, be as sly as snakes and as simple as doves." Jesus explains that religious and political authorities have seized control of spiritual understanding. These powerful figures not only fail to understand the knowledge they possess, but also prevent ordinary people from accessing it. In response, Jesus advises his followers to be as innocent as doves to avoid attracting unwanted attention. but also as wise as serpents to skillfully navigate past these authorities in their quest for truth. Saying 40, Jesus said, "A grapevine has been planted apart from the Father. Since it is not strong, it will be pulled up by its root and will perish." Jesus uses the analogy of a grapevine to explain that anything planted outside of God's influence, including a person living a life without God, will be spiritually malnourished. In the end, it will be uprooted and destroyed. Saying 41, Jesus said, "Whoever has something in hand will be given more, and whoever has nothing will be deprived of even the little they have." This saying teaches a lesson about gratitude. Jesus shows that those who are appreciative will always feel they have an abundance. In contrast, those who believe they have nothing will suffer a true sense of loss when even the little they thought they had is taken from them. Saying 42, Jesus said, "Be passerby." Jesus is advising his disciples not to become too invested in the physical world, as they are merely passing by on their journey to the spiritual realm. They should observe and learn without putting down permanent roots. Saying 43, his disciples said to him, "Who are you to say these things to us? You don't understand who I am from what I say to you. Rather, you have become like the Judeans, for they love the tree but hate its fruit, or they love the fruit but hate the tree." When his disciples question how he knows so much, Jesus replies by comparing them to people who love a tree but hate its fruit, or vice versa. He means that people are inconsistent. They will either love him but find his message difficult, or they will love his message but reject him as the messenger. Saying 44, Jesus said, "Whoever blasphemes against the Father will be forgiven, and whoever blasphemes against the Son will be forgiven. But whoever blasphemes against the Holy Spirit will not be forgiven, either on earth or in heaven." This idea of blasphemy against the Holy Spirit being the only unforgivable sin is a highly discussed theological concept and a pretty complex one. Here in the Gospel of Thomas, though, more context is added that I think give it more meaning from the Gnostic lens. Here the Father is brought up, which is commonly referred to as the demiurge, and in some books like the Apocryphon of John, the Holy Spirit is the supreme God or the All. So it would make more sense that blaspheming the supreme God would be much more severe than the Father. The Holy Spirit is within us, so to blaspheme against it is to undermine our very essence. Saying 45, Jesus said, "Grapes are not harvested from thorn trees, nor are figs gathered from thistles, for they yield no fruit. Good persons produce good from what they've stored up. Bad persons produce evil from the wickedness they've stored up in their hearts, and say evil things. For from the overflow of the heart they produce evil." Jesus teaches that one must be careful about what they store in their hearts. A heart filled with goodness is unlikely to produce evil, just as a heart filled with bad things cannot produce good. Just as you don't harvest grapes from thorns or figs from thistles, a person with an evil heart cannot show goodness, nor can a person with a good heart exhibit true evil. Saying 46, Jesus said, "From Adam to John the Baptist, among those born of women, no one is so much greater than John the Baptist that his eyes should not be averted. But I have said that whoever among you becomes a child will recognize the Father's kingdom and will become greater than John." Jesus again urges his disciples to become like infants, pure and uncorrupted by the world. By casting off worldly complexities and adopting the moral simplicity of a child, one can find salvation, know the divine kingdom, and become even greater than John the Baptist. This rejection of the worldly ways is a common theme in the Gospel of Thomas and reflects a Gnostic worldview of the material world being a trap to escape from. Saying 47, Jesus said a person cannot mount 2 horses or bend 2 bows. and a slave cannot serve two masters, otherwise that slave will honor the one and offend the other. Nobody drinks aged wine and immediately wants to drink young wine. Young wine is not poured into old wineskins, or they might break. And aged wine is not poured into a new wineskin, or it might spoil. An old patch is not sewn onto a new garment, since it would create a tear. Through several parables, Jesus explains that one cannot acquire new knowledge without being willing to abandon old ways of thinking. Our ingrained habits often resist new ideas, just as you can't serve two masters without loving one and hating the other. You cannot embrace spiritual enlightenment while clinging to a life of material greed. A choice must be made: either grow with new knowledge or remain stagnant with the old. No half in, half out. Saying 48. Jesus said, "If two make peace with each other in a single house, they will say to the mountain, 'Move from here,' and it will move." This is another saying suggesting that when two become one, they can move mountains. This highlights another theme in this text, which references the Gnostic and Hermetic idea of union of opposites and achieving oneness. When we are able to embrace oneness, we unlock endless capabilities. We are in perfect harmony, able to overcome any challenge by unifying the masculine and feminine energies. Saying 49, Jesus said, "Congratulations to those who are alone and chosen, for you will find the kingdom. For you have come from it, and you will return there again." This saying reflects the Gnostic belief that human spirits originated in another realm and will return there after death. Jesus states that those who achieve this singular form, a state of oneness with their spirit, are the ones who will be chosen to make this journey back. Saying 50. Jesus said, "If they say to you, 'Where have you come from?' say to them, 'We have come from the light, from the place where the light came into being by itself, established itself, and appeared in their image.' If they say to you, 'Is it you?' say, 'We are its children, and we are the chosen of the living Father.' If they ask you, 'What is the evidence of your Father in you?' say to them, 'It is motion and rest.'" Jesus explains that the righteous should strive for oneness and take pride in their origin from the place of light and heavenly spiritual realm. This light is one's true self, the divine spark within. This divinity within us is what moves us and gives us calmness for rest. Saying 51. His disciples said to him, "When will the rest for the dead take place? And when will the new world come?" He said to them, "What you are looking forward to has come, but you don't know it." Here Jesus gives another reminder that the knowledge the disciples seek is already within them, but they have not yet reached the level of consciousness needed to understand it. They need to realize what is already within themselves to achieve Gnosis and be one with the Supreme God. Saying 52. His disciples said to him, 24 prophets have spoken in Israel, and they all spoke of you." He said to them, "You have disregarded the living one who is in your presence, and have spoken of the dead." Jesus seems offended when his disciples bring up the 24 prophets of Israel. He tells them not to concern themselves with what others have said when he, the living one, is standing right in front of them, highlighting his unique and supreme authority over the other prophets. Saying 53. His disciples said to him, "Is circumcision useful or not?" He said to them, "If it were useful, their father would produce children already circumcised from their mother. Rather, the true circumcision in spirit has become profitable in every respect." Jesus dismisses the importance of physical circumcision, a key practice in the Old Testament. He instead favors the New Testament concept of spiritual circumcision, achieving a covenant with God through baptism. He doesn't condemn the physical act, but considers it not useful. Saying 54. Jesus said, "Congratulations to the poor, for to you belongs the heaven's kingdom." A common teaching of Jesus from the New Testament, he explains that the poor are more likely to enter the kingdom because they aren't distracted by material wealth. Their difficult circumstances often lead them to turn to God with pure authenticity. The rich, on the other hand, may feel no need for God due to their comfortable lives, and by valuing their riches more, they risk being denied the eternal kingdom. Saying 55. Jesus said, "Whoever does not hate father and mother cannot be my disciple, and whoever does not hate brothers and sisters and carry the cross as I do will not be worthy of me." In a very harsh or blunt saying, this suggests that to be truly free, one might need to reject what they love most, including their family, to make space for God's love. A Gnostic interpretation sees this as breaking the cycle of earthly obligations to achieve spiritual transcendence, aligning with the recurring theme of non-attachment to the physical world. Saying 56. Jesus said, "Whoever has come to know the world has discovered a carcass, and whoever has discovered a carcass, of that person the world is not worthy." Staying true to the Gnostic view that the physical world is not our true home, like our bodies, it is temporary and decomposing. Therefore, we should aim for the spiritual world rather than attaching ourselves to this corpse. When we achieve Gnosis, this world is not worthy of us. We are destined to return to the pleroma, the ultimate reality and source of all being. Saying 57. Jesus said the Father's kingdom is like a person who has good seed. His enemy came during the night and sowed weeds among the good seed. The person did not let the workers pull up the weeds, but said to them, "No, otherwise you might go to pull up the weeds and pull up the wheat along with them. For on the day of the harvest, the weeds will be conspicuous and will be pulled up and burned." In another allegory, Jesus advises his disciples not to worry excessively about their enemies. Wicked people, or weeds, are an inevitable part of life. If you live righteously, the difference between good and evil will become clear in the end, and the wicked will be pulled out and burned like weeds from a harvest. Saying 58, Jesus said, "Congratulations to the person who has toiled and has found life." Jesus blesses the one who has endured hardship, for that person is truly alive. Often we don't appreciate our good fortune. Experiencing turmoil reminds us that we are still living and should be grateful, as others may be facing even greater struggles. Saying 59. Jesus said, "Look to the living one as long as you live. Otherwise you might die, and then try to see the living one, and you will be unable to see." In another warning, Jesus tells his disciples to seek him while they are still alive, once again referring to himself as the living one. After death, it will be too late. People who turn to him in the afterlife often do so out of fear or regret. Jesus desires genuine worship from the living, and only those who find him in life will be granted entry into the spiritual kingdom. Saying 60. He saw a Samaritan carrying a lamb and going to Judea. He said to his disciples, "That person around the lamb." They said to him, "So that he may kill it and eat it." He said to them, "He will not eat it while it is alive, but only after he has killed it and has become a carcass." They said, "Otherwise he can't do it." He said to them, "So also with you, seek for yourselves a place for rest, or you might become a carcass and be eaten." This seems to be missing a bit in the manuscript, but Jesus is essentially asking what the Samaritan is doing with the lamb, and his disciples tell him he will kill it and eat it. The Samaritan with the lamb represents people engrossed in worldly actions that lead to a form of death. The lamb cannot be eaten while alive, only as a carcass. Jesus uses this to admonish his disciples, urging them to find a place for rest. This rest signifies a state of inner peace and spiritual enlightenment, a separation from the destructive and consuming nature of the world. The warning is stark. Without achieving this spiritual stillness, one risks becoming like the lamb, a lifeless carcass to be consumed by the world's conflicts and material concerns. Saying 61, Jesus said 2 will recline on a couch, 1 will die, 1 will live. Salome said, "Who are you, mister? You have climbed onto my couch and eaten from my table as if you are from someone." Jesus said to her, "I am the one who comes from what is whole. I was granted from the things of my Father. I am your disciple. For this reason I say, if one is whole, one will be filled with light, but if one is divided, one will be filled with darkness." Jesus explains that according to Gnostic teaching, someone who is balanced and whole or unifies the opposites is full of light and will unite with the pleroma. In contrast, someone who is divided is full of darkness and will be cast out. Saying 62, Jesus said, "I disclose my mysteries to those who are worthy of my mysteries." Jesus states that his profound mysteries are reserved only for those who are worthy of hearing them, again highlighting the Gnostic idea that spiritual truth requires one to be ready to receive it. Saying 63, Jesus said there was a rich person who had a great deal of money. He said, "I shall invest my money so that I may sow, reap, plant, and fill my storehouses with produce, that I may lack nothing." These were the things he was thinking in his heart, but that very night he died. Anyone here with 2 ears had better listen. Jesus uses this parable to show that money is ultimately meaningless. No amount of wealth can buy an escape from death or entrance into heaven. The rich man had grand plans for his fortune, but he couldn't avoid his fate. The lesson is not to become too attached to money at the expense of life's sacredness. Saying 64, Jesus said a person was receiving guests. When he had prepared the dinner, he sent his slave to invite the guests. The slave went to the first and said to that one, "My master invites you." That one said, "Some merchants owe me money. They are coming to me tonight. I have to go and give them instructions. Please excuse me from dinner." The slave went to another and said to that one, "My master has invited you." That one said to the slave, "I have bought a house, and I have been called away for a day. I shall have no time." The slave went to another and said to that one, "My master invites you." That one said to the slave, "My friend is to be married, and I am to arrange the banquet. I shall not be able to come. Please excuse me from dinner." The slave went to another and said to that one, "My master invites you." That one said to the slave, "I have bought an estate, and I am going to collect the rent. I shall not be able to come. Please excuse me." The slave returned and said to his master, "Those whom you invited to dinner have asked to be excused." The master said to his slave, "Go out on the street and bring back whomever you find to have dinner. Buyers and merchants will not enter the places of my Father." Jesus uses this parable to illustrate that those too preoccupied with their own wealth and ambitions will not enter the kingdom of heaven, while it remains open to others that are humble and willing to be with God. Saying 65, he said, "A person owned a vineyard and rented it to some farmers so they could work it and he could collect its crop from them. He sent his slaves so the farmers would give him the vineyard's crop. They grabbed him, beat him, and almost killed him, and the slave returned and told his master. His master said, 'Perhaps he didn't know them.' He sent another slave, and the farmers beat that one as well. Then the master sent his son and said, 'Perhaps they'll show my son some respect.' Because the farmers knew that he was the heir to their vineyard, they grabbed him and killed him. Anyone here with 2 ears had better listen." This parable is a metaphor about God the Father lending the vineyard or the earth to his farmers or his people. The slaves that are sent are God's prophets, but his people do not listen to them. Then he finally sends his own son, or Jesus, and his people not only do not listen to him, but they kill him as well. Saying 66, Jesus said, "Show me the stone that the builders rejected. That is the keystone." This illustrates the idea that there is value in everything, even what is discarded. It can be seen as one man's trash is another man's treasure, or as a demonstration of Jesus' power to transform the worthless into the imperative. Saying 67. Jesus said, "Those who know all but are lacking in themselves are utterly lacking." Jesus teaches that someone who seems to know everything but lacks knowledge of who they truly are, or have not realized the divine spark within themselves, actually knows nothing. We are utterly lacking until we wake up to who we are and become one with the divine. Saying 68. Jesus said, "Congratulations to you when you are hated and persecuted, and no place will be found wherever you have been persecuted." Jesus tells his disciples they are blessed when hated and persecuted, as it shows they are separate from the wickedness of the material world. While unpleasant, this opposition can be a sign that you are on the right path, as meaningful change is never met with indifference. Saying 69. Jesus said, "Congratulations to those who have been persecuted in their hearts. They are the ones who have truly come to know the Father. Congratulations to those who go hungry, so the stomach of the one in want may be filled." Echoing previous sayings, Jesus explains that those who suffer are often better off in the long run. Their hardship leads them to pray to God with earnestness, making them more likely to find Him and be saved. Saying 70. Jesus said, "If you bring forth what is within you, what you have will save you. If you do not have that within you, what you do not have within you will kill you." Jesus teaches that the strength we need to overcome suffering is already within us. Once we realize this divine spark already within us, we can achieve Gnosis and return to the pleroma. If we fail to do so, we may succumb to more pain and death. Saying 71. Jesus said, "I will destroy this house, and no one will be able to build it." Jesus' claim that he can destroy the house is akin to the saying, "The Lord gives and the Lord takes away." It serves as a warning that what he has given, he can also remove, and no one else will be able to replace it. Saying 72. A person said to him, "Tell my brothers to divide my father's possessions with me." He said to the person, "Mister, who made me a divider?" He turns to his disciples and said to them, "I'm not a divider, am I?" When asked to divide an inheritance, Jesus seems amused. It is ironic that he, whose mission is to unite all things, is being asked to facilitate division. He turns to his disciples with a rhetorical question, as if to say, "After all I've taught about unity and oneness, they are asking me to be a divider?" Saying 73. Jesus said, "The crop is huge, but the workers are few. So beg the harvest boss to dispatch workers to the fields." Jesus is using this analogy to say that true seekers are few, even when the reward is eternal life. It is a call for believers to ask God to raise up and send out more people who are willing to do His work of spreading the message of the gospel. Saying 74. He said, "Lord, there are many around drinking the trough, but there is nothing in the well." Here the truth is likened to water in a well. Though many people are gathered around it, none are drinking. This serves as a metaphor that people are not ready for the truth. They either cannot see it or they don't believe it's there. Saying 75. Jesus said, "There are many standing at the door, but those who are alone will enter the bridal suite." This is a metaphorical teaching about spiritual preparedness and inner unity. The many standing at the door represent those who are drawn to the divine kingdom but have not yet achieved the necessary spiritual state. To enter the bridal suite, a symbol of divine union and spiritual fulfillment, one must be alone or solitary. This refers to achieving a state of inner wholeness and singular focus on God, free from worldly distractions and internal division. Saying 76. Jesus said, "The Father's kingdom is like a merchant who had a supply of merchandise and found a pearl. That merchant was prudent. He sold the merchandise and bought the single pearl for himself. So also with you, seek his treasure that is unfailing, that is enduring, where no moth comes to eat and no worm destroys. The pearl here is true knowledge. He is seeking us to seek the truth that is beyond intellectual knowledge, the knowledge of the divine within ourselves. Saying 77, Jesus said, I am the light that is over all things. I am all. From me all came forth, and to me all attained. Split a piece of wood, I am there. Lift up the stone, and you will find me there. Jesus states that he is the all and can be found anywhere in the world. No matter how unlikely the place, under a stone or within a piece of wood, he is there. You don't need to connect with him through a priest or in a church. Saying 78, Jesus said, Why have you come out to the countryside? To see a reed shaken by the wind? And to see a person dressed in soft clothes like your rulers and your powerful ones? They are dressed in soft clothes, and they cannot understand truth. Jesus seems to dismiss the ways of the world and materialistic comfort. He explains that their positions of power do not grant them access to the truth, especially if their materialistic behavior, like valuing fancy clothes, is at odds with spiritual principles. They are ignorant in the grand scheme of all things. Once we relinquish our desire for material things here on earth, then we can achieve spiritual oneness and knowledge of who we truly are. Saying 79, a woman in the crowd said to him, Lucky are the womb that bore you and the breasts that fed you. He said to her, Lucky are those who have heard the word of the Father and have truly kept it. For there will be days when you will say, Lucky are the womb that has not conceived and the breasts that have not given milk. Jesus advises a woman in the crowd to put her faith in God rather than in fallible humans who can easily disappoint. Attachment to the material realm brings suffering. Escape what binds you to this realm and rid yourself of the source of suffering. True faith should be placed in the divine, not in humanity. Saying 80, Jesus said, Whoever has come to know the world has discovered the body, and whoever has discovered the body, of that one the world is not worthy. Similar to saying 56, Jesus is saying that when we wake up to what this world really is, we expand our consciousness and can escape it. When we achieve Gnosis, this world is not worthy of us. We can become one with God. Saying 81, Jesus said, Let one who has become wealthy reign, and let one who has power renounce. Wealth here refers to spiritual wealth, the attainment of Gnosis. One who has become wealthy in this sense has found the kingdom of God within themselves. Such a person is self-sovereign and no longer a slave to the ignorance and constraints of the material world. They are fit to reign over their own spiritual domain. Saying 82, Jesus said, Whoever is near me is near the fire, and whoever is far from me is far from the Father's kingdom. Jesus compares himself to a fire. Those who are close to him experience warmth and comfort and are therefore close to the divine kingdom. Those who are far from him are also far from salvation. Saying 83, Jesus said, Images are visible to people, but the light within them is hidden in the image of the Father's light. He will be disclosed, but his image is hidden by his light. Jesus explains that we often believe we understand what we see, but our personal experiences and biases obscure the true meaning, the light within. His light, his pure, overwhelming, and formless essence, is too brilliant to be perceived as a distinct shape or form. Trying to see the image of God is like trying to stare directly into the sun. Saying 84, Jesus said, When you see your likeness, you are happy. But when you see your images that came into being before you, and that neither die nor become visible, how much will you have to bear? This saying likely refers to the Gnostic goal of becoming a whole or unified being. Achieving this sacred state brings great joy. However, this is difficult because it requires giving up so much of our identity that we are attached to in the material world. Saying 85, Jesus said, Adam came from great power and great wealth, but he was not worthy of you. For had he been worthy, he would not have tasted death. Jesus condemns Adam for betraying God's trust, judging him as unworthy. He suggests that if Adam had been worthy, he would have never fallen from grace in the Garden of Eden and would not have come to know death. This saying seems to speak of the mainstream view of Adam's fall, not the Gnostic one. Saying 86. Jesus said, "Foxes have their dens and birds have their nests, but human beings have no place to lay down and rest." Jesus is explaining that we are not of this world, even though we are living in it. We have no true home here. Our true home is with God. Saying 87. Jesus said, "How miserable is the body that depends on a body, and how miserable is the soul that depends on these two." This is a deeply ascetic and challenging statement that reflects the Gnostic worldview often present in the Gospel of Thomas. It portrays a chain of miserable dependence that must be broken to achieve spiritual freedom. When the soul identifies with the material world, it becomes a slave to the frail and decaying flesh. This state of being is doubly miserable because the soul is living in profound ignorance of its true nature and origin. Saying 88. Jesus said the messengers and the prophet will come to you and give you what belongs to you. You, in turn, give them what you have and say to yourselves, when will they come and take what belongs to them? This saying describes a three-step spiritual journey. First is awakening, where a divine teacher reveals your true spiritual nature to you. Then you respond by giving what you have or yourself. At that point, your perspective completely shifts. You realize that your true self does not belong to this world, and you begin to long for the day you can be fully reunited with the divine. It's a beautiful and complex expression of receiving the gospel, where the ultimate gift you can give back is your own redeemed soul, which was God's all along. Saying 89. Jesus said, "Why do you wash the outside of the cup? Don't you understand that the one who made the inside is also the one who made the outside?" We are diligent about cleaning our outside, our outward appearance, but far less concerned with our inside, our thoughts and habits. Jesus insists that we must look within, discover who we truly are, rather than worry about how we are perceived by others. Saying 90. Jesus said, "Come to me, for my yoke is comfortable, and my lordship is gentle, and you will find rest for yourselves." Jesus reassures his followers not to be intimidated by his teachings. Despite how daunting everything may sound, his yoke is easy to bear. Being in his presence is a light burden, and it will bring rest and relief. Saying 91. They said to him, "Tell us who you are so that we may believe in you." He said to them, "You examine the face of heaven and earth, but you have not come to know the one who is in your presence, and you do not know how to examine the present moment." This saying contrasts the demand for external proof with the call for direct, present moment awareness. It is a core theme in the Gospel of Thomas, which emphasizes inner knowledge over belief based on external authority or signs. It challenges the seeker to stop looking for answers in the future or from an external authority, and instead to develop the inner capacity to see the sacred in their immediate presence. Saying 92. Jesus said, "Seek and you will find. In the past, however, I did not tell you the things about which you asked me then. Now I am willing to tell them, but you are not seeking them." Jesus wants us to seek the truth, encouraging us that we will find it. He does not want to just tell those that are not ready, as they may not understand. Just asking, but not truly being ready and willing to learn the truth, are not enough. We must be actively seeking, looking within, trying to find oneness with God. Saying 93. Don't give what is holy to dogs, for they might throw them upon the manure pile. Don't throw pearls to pigs, or they might it. Here again there is some missing parts of the manuscript, but Jesus is explaining that the truth will only be revealed to those who are ready and worthy. Just as he withholds answers from those not truly seeking in the previous saying, he will not give truth to those not deemed worthy. Saying 94, Jesus said, "One who seeks will find, and for one who knocks, it will be opened." Jesus tells his disciples that anyone who truly chooses to seek God can find him. All they need to do is make the effort to reach out, knock, and they will be answered. Saying 95, Jesus said, "If you have money, don't lend it at interest. Rather give it to someone from whom you won't get it back." In a lesson that contradicts conventional wisdom, Jesus advises that if you lend money to someone in need, you should do so without expecting repayment or charging interest. Rather than being angry if the money isn't returned, you should be happy that you were in a position to help. Saying 96, Jesus said, "The Father's kingdom is like a woman. She took a little leaven, hid it in dough, and made it into large loaves of bread. Anyone here with 2 ears had better listen." This parable, known as the parable of the leaven, explains that the kingdom of God works in hidden, quiet, and mysterious ways. It compares the kingdom to a small amount of yeast that a woman mixes into a large batch of dough. Although it starts small and unseen, the kingdom's influence is powerful and pervasive, inevitably transforming the entire world or an individual's life from the inside out. Saying 97, Jesus said the Father's kingdom is like a woman who was carrying a jar full of meal. While she was walking along a distant road, the handle of the jar broke, and the meal spilled behind her along the road. She didn't know it. She hadn't noticed the problem. When she reached her house, she put the jar down and discovered that it was empty. In this parable, the core message is a powerful warning about the danger of spiritual negligence. It teaches that the loss of one's connection to the divine may not be a dramatic, sudden event, but a slow, silent process that goes completely unnoticed by the distracted or unobservant person. The parable urges a state of constant vigilance and self-examination, lest one complete the journey of life only to discover that the essential purpose, the spiritual substance, has been lost along the way. Saying 98, Jesus said, "The Father's kingdom is like a person who wanted to kill someone powerful. While still at home, he drew his sword and thrust it into the wall to find out whether his hand would go in. Then he killed the powerful one." This somewhat startling parable is a metaphor for spiritual struggle, not literal violence. It describes a man who prepares to defeat a powerful enemy by first testing his own strength and resolve at home. The core message is that entering the kingdom requires careful and deliberate preparation. One must first assess their own spiritual strength and discipline before they can successfully overcome the great obstacles like the ego or worldly attachments on their spiritual path. Saying 99, the disciples said to him, "Your brothers and your mother are standing outside." He said to them, "Those here who do what my Father wants are my brothers and my mother. They are the ones who will enter my Father's kingdom." Jesus declares that his true family is not defined by blood relations, but his spiritual kinship. He tells his disciples that the people listening to him, who do the will of his Father, are his real mothers and brothers. In this sense, shared faith is thicker than blood. Saying 100, they showed Jesus a gold coin and said to him, "The Roman emperor's people demand taxes from us." He said to them, "Give the emperor what belongs to the emperor, give God what belongs to God, and give me what is mine." This saying shows that while one should not overvalue the physical world, one must still abide by its laws. Jesus demonstrates that he lives among the people and shares in their struggles, even while possessing divine knowledge. Saying 101, whoever does not hate father and mother as I do cannot be my disciple, and whoever does not love father and mother as I do cannot be my disciple. For my mother, but my true mother gave me life. In a seemingly contradictory message with a missing bit at the end, Jesus is speaking of a common message that appears in this text. He is saying that we must separate ourselves from the material world and its attachments. We must seek unity with our true mother, the supreme being, the pleroma. This is who gave us life. Saying 102. Jesus said, "Damn the Pharisees, they are like a dog sleeping in the cattle manger. The dog neither eats nor lets the cattle eat." Jesus delivers a scathing critique of the Pharisees, declaring them to be useless obstacles, mocking their very existence. The religious authorities often block seekers from the truth through their own ignorance. Saying 103. Jesus said, "Congratulations to those who know where the rebels are going to attack. They can get going, collect their imperial resources, and be prepared before the rebels arrive." Jesus is congratulating the person who lives with conscious awareness, anticipates their spiritual trials, and prepares themselves to meet them from a position of strength. Saying 104. They said to Jesus, "Come, let us pray today and let us fast." Jesus said, "What sin have I committed, or how have I been undone? Rather, when the groom leaves the bridal suite, then let the people fast and pray." This saying of Jesus is a well-known passage that appears in a similar form in the 3 synoptic Gospels of the New Testament. The core message is that the physical presence of Jesus on earth inaugurated a new era, the era of the kingdom of God's joyful arrival. This new reality superseded the old forms of piety. To engage in somber rituals like fasting, while the source of all joy, the groom, was present, was to misunderstand the significance of the moment completely. This saying establishes Jesus' authority to redefine religious practice and powerfully foreshadows his eventual departure. Saying 105. Jesus said, "Whoever knows the father and the mother will be called the child of a whore." This is a very interesting and somewhat bizarre saying in the Gospel. The passage could be referring to the importance placed on lineage. Jesus could be saying, "Your ancestry is irrelevant and will lead you to ruin. It is not the family or reputation thereof that is important. All must realize that they are children of God and God alone. You cannot serve 2 masters." It could also be a radical call to reject worldly identity in favor of a purely spiritual one. It functions as a piece of spiritual shock therapy to force the listener to question the very basis of who they think they are. Saying 106. Jesus said, "When you make the 2 into 1, you will become the children of Adam. And when you say, 'Mountain, move from here,' it will move." This saying links back to the Gnostic idea of oneness, or of the unification of opposites. Once this unification is achieved, a person becomes like Jesus, balanced and powerful enough to overcome even impossible tasks, like moving a mountain. Saying 107. Jesus said, "The Father's kingdom is like a shepherd who had 100 sheep. One of them, the largest, went astray. He left the 99 and looked for the one until he found it. After he had toiled, he said to the sheep, 'I love you more than the 99. This parable reinterprets the well-known story of the lost sheep. In this version, the lost sheep is the largest, signifying it is the most valuable or has the greatest spiritual potential. The shepherd's toil to find it, and his declaration of loving it more than the 99, emphasizes a key Gnostic idea, the immense value of the individual soul that has gone astray from its divine origin, and the great effort required to bring it back to salvation. The focus is less on repentance and more on the supreme worth and recovery of the lost divine spark. Saying 108, Jesus said, "Whoever drinks from my mouth will become like me. I myself shall become that person, and the hidden things will be revealed to him." This saying describes the ultimate goal of a disciple in mystical terms. To drink from my mouth means to receive Jesus' wisdom directly, not secondhand, by connecting directly with him. This act is so transformative that the disciple and Jesus merge identities, with the disciple becoming like Jesus and Jesus in turn dwelling within the disciple. Divine oneness. As a result of this profound union, the disciple achieves Gnosis, gaining access to the divine hidden knowledge. Saying 109. Jesus said, "The Father's kingdom is like a person who had a treasure hidden in his field but did not know it. And when he died, he left it to his son. The son did not know about it either. He took over the field and sold it. The buyer went plowing, discovered the treasure, and began to lend money at interest to whomever he wished." This parable is a tragic variation of the famous parable of the hidden treasure. It illustrates how the divine potential or treasure of the kingdom of God exists within every person, but remains useless if they are ignorant of it. The original owner and his son both possessed the treasure, but died without benefiting from it, symbolizing how spiritual inheritance can be lost through unawareness. The one who finally discovers the treasure, the diligent seeker who plows, is the one who can actively use its power and value. We have to actively look within ourselves to discover our divine spark. Saying 110, Jesus said, "Let one who has found the world and has become wealthy renounce the world." Similar to saying 81, this presents a spiritual paradox about renunciation. Finding the world doesn't mean worldly success, but rather coming to a full and complete understanding of the material world's nature and its limitations. Once a person has achieved this profound insight and become wealthy with this knowledge, they realize the world's ultimate emptiness and are then ready to renounce or transcend it, turning away from its illusions to seek true spiritual reality. Saying 111, Jesus said, "The heavens and the earth will roll up in your presence, and whoever is living from the living one will not see death." Does not Jesus say, "Those who have found themselves, of them the world is not worthy"? Jesus reassures his disciples that heaven will find those who are worthy. Anyone who has looked inward to discover who they truly are, discover the divine spark, will transcend this material existence and return to the pleroma. Saying 112, Jesus said, "Damn the soul that depends on the flesh." This saying presents a radical statement on the relationship between the physical body and the spiritual essence. It condemns a state of mutual, dependent coexistence where neither can thrive independently. The first part, "Damn the flesh that depends on the soul," criticizes a body that is merely a passive vessel, lacking its own purpose and vitality without the soul. The second part, "Damn the soul that depends on the flesh," condemns a spirit that is so entangled with and reliant on the physical world and its desires that it cannot achieve its own spiritual liberation. The saying calls for a radical separation and independence, urging the soul to transcend its reliance on the material form to find its true, higher existence. Saying 113, his disciples said to him, "When will the kingdom come? It will not come by watching for it. It will not be said, 'Look here,' or 'Look there.' Rather, the Father's kingdom is spread out upon the earth, and people don't see it." This powerful saying is once again explaining that the kingdom is not a future event to be anticipated or a physical place that will suddenly appear in a specific location. Instead, it is a spiritual reality that is already present and within us. The reason people do not experience it is not because it is absent, but because they lack the spiritual perception to see it. Entering the kingdom is not about waiting, but about a change in awareness and recognizing the divine that is already all around and within. Saying 114, Simon Peter said to them, "Make Mary leave us, for females don't deserve life." Jesus said, "Look, I will guide her to make her male, so that she too may become a living spirit resembling you males. For every female who makes herself male will enter the kingdom of heaven." This final controversial saying is claimed by some to have been added at a later date from the rest of the text, but it is debated. It is not understood by scholars as a literal command for women to become biologically male. Instead, it uses symbolic language rooted in ancient philosophy, where male represented the active, spiritual, and perfected soul, while female represented the passive, material, and earthly body. Jesus' response to Peter's misogyny is to state that he will guide Mary to achieve spiritual perfection, effectively helping her transcend her earthly nature. The saying's core message is that entry into the kingdom requires everyone, regardless of their gender, to shed their lower material identity, symbolized as female, and cultivate their higher spiritual self, symbolized as male. Thank you so much for watching. I'm also going to post a version of this where I remove all of my commentary, so it will just be a reading of the text itself. That will be out soon. Let me know which saying resonated with you the most. There are some fascinating teachings in here, some familiar, some not so much, so let me know your thoughts. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please remember to like and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a future video. Check out a history channel I narrate for called Folks of Yore, where we make videos about the day-to-day lives of people from history. Thanks again, until next time.